Welcome to today's podcast. I'm Ben Stockwell, and today I'm joined by Brendan Desautels, a senior at Assumption University and member of the baseball team, who is also the Northeast 10 Student Athlete Advisory Committee Co-Chair. Hey, how are you doing this morning?
I'm good, Ben. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's great. We just want to try to get to know some of our, SAAC officers and, what they're all about and, why this is important to you. So the first question I would say is, tell us some things about yourself, what people might not know, where you're from, and, what you like to do, what you're doing on campus.
Yeah, so like you said, my name's Brendan Desautels. I'm going to be a senior this year at Assumption University. I'm on the baseball team. I'm a management major. And like you said, this is my second year in SAAC. I've really loved the experience so far. I started off my sophomore year simply joining in a small role on the Assumption campus, but come my junior year, I sort of felt an obligation to get more involved and serve others. I saw that, there were opportunities to change some things. I think sometimes people like to take positions, especially at our age, simply to boost their resume or, to have a title. And then, they don't really go too much further with it. They don't apply themselves. They don't really try to make a difference. I thought that this would be a good role for me to immerse myself in because I really felt I could help make some change. The NE10 does a phenomenal job of really giving their student athletes a voice and an opportunity to be heard and make change. And I felt like I was the type of person that could really utilize the opportunities they were giving us to really help make our student athletes' lives better on a day-to-day basis.
Awesome. And what prompted you to go to Assumption and choose that for education and then to play baseball?
Yeah, so it's a good question. I think when I was in high school, I was really, really nervous of the whole college process. I grew up in Holden, which is right outside of Worcester. Went to high school in Worcester at Holy Name. And I was really looking at schools that were far away initially. And I at first wanted to play college football. So my high school coach at Holy Name ended up being an assistant with Coach Chesney at Assumption. So I was set on coming here to play football. I decided when I was a junior, I was going to be on the football team here. And then all of a sudden, after my senior year of high school, I started throwing harder in baseball. And I thought that it would definitely be the better fit for me to play on the baseball team. So I walked on to the baseball team at Assumption. And I've been playing for Coach Rocco ever since. It's been awesome. I'm really glad I made the decision. And as far as, a school is concerned, I really wanted to go to a Catholic school. I went to a Catholic high school. It's kind of, I don't want to say it was a necessity, but it definitely was a big factor in my decision. I think that having that third element, your athletics, your academics, and then being able to have a school that's centered around faith, it kind of influenced me to go there too. So that was definitely part of the decision, and seeing the growth that was happening on the Assumption campus. When I first toured there, the center of the campus was all trees, and now the center of campus is our biggest building, SOTUS. They're building a new medical center right now. So I'm really excited because it's just been growing ever since, and it's going to continue to grow.
Nice. So, you mentioned kind of you saw you getting involved in SAAC as a sophomore, and, was there something specific for you that really pushed you to join? And then, when you joined, you just kind of, what do you see that you really were like, I want to make a change. I want to make a difference. I want to step up and try to be involved in this even more than just at my school.
Yeah. So initially when I was a sophomore, my first meeting that I attended was actually because a boy on the team, Matt Schneider, was a pretty involved member. He represented the baseball team at the meetings, and the person he worked with couldn't make it that week. So he's like, hey, you mind filling in? You don't really have to come ever again. We just need you for 1 week. I showed up. I was really taken back by how much they were responsible for on campus. I really thought that they just talked about random stuff and then they all went home. But the meetings would last a good hour. They're pretty detailed. They're very organized. I was pretty impressed by how the officers had such a large agenda in front of them to cover every week. And so I saw that there was less involvement from the people in the crowd versus the officers. Like, it was pretty much the officers talking the whole time, and then the people in the crowd really wouldn't say much. So I thought that if I were able to get involved, I would sort of try and restructure how the meetings were run so that we could get the entire group of people participating. So what we did last year when I became the co-chair of the conference was, at Assumption, the first like 15 minutes of every meeting, we would break up into 7 subcommittees. So instead of having one large committee at our meetings and just sitting in a circle and talking, all 7 members of the executive board would be in charge of a different subcommittee. So, right, we'd have mental health, we'd have the multicultural committee, we would have fundraising, community involvement, and every person in SAAC would be involved in a particular area. Like, I was in charge of team impact. So we strictly talked about, what is the team impact group going to do this week? And then mental health, what is on our plate that we have to get done before our next meeting? So it made everybody feel a responsibility to bring something to the table, not just sit there, listen, and then leave when the meeting was over. So for the first 15 minutes, you'd meet in your breakout groups, then you'd all come in a circle, and every person would be responsible to like provide a recap on any given week. So like, if I called on somebody, I was like, hey, what's going on? How did mental health go this week? Everybody is responsible for knowing what their responsibility is. It's no longer you just show up and you leave when we're done talking. It's everyone's involved now.
That's awesome. And I think that involvement is huge. And I think, in my experiences at different college campuses, it really, the involvement of SAAC can really vary in terms of how involved people are and how much gets done on campus. And with that, what would you tell someone who hasn't really ever thought about, SAAC, but in their future career, they say, hey, I want to be a coach. I want to be an athletic director. What are the benefits from your perspective of someone joining something like that?
Yeah, I think so. I want to be an athletic director or work in athletic administration in some capacity. So SAAC has definitely helped open some doors for me as far as building relationships with members of our administration and administration from other schools. I've got to know people. I already knew you from Assumption, but people within the NE10, I got to know very well. So it definitely opens doors as far as building relationships and networking. But as far as personal development and skills, I think joining as a freshman or a sophomore is so essential, because we do allow them to have less of a responsibility because we understand that it's not for everybody. I don't want, a freshman or a sophomore to show up and overwhelm them and then, have them lose their taste in participating in SAAC in future years. I know when I was a sophomore, I don't think I opened my mouth one time. It was come junior year that I completely immersed myself, because I just saw so many opportunities for growth within our school that I felt an obligation to my peers to act on what I saw. So I think that for the kids that, especially those who are interested in pursuing a career, going to SAAC is like, it's almost a stepping stone to launch you a little bit further. My knowledge of athletic administration, managing others, leading your peers, especially peer leadership is really hard at this age, because some kids are totally involved or they are totally checked out. Every year you have some seniors who it's the end of their college career. If they're say they're a fall sport senior, right? Come April, May, they don't care as much. So, you got to keep those people involved, especially as a junior, having to pull back people, especially during COVID, holding meetings during that stuff, it gets challenging. So for those who want to boost their capabilities, like I said, this isn't really a resume thing. It's a personal development type of thing. You really get to understand what college kids want, because that's going to be your career if that's what you're going after.
Yeah, it's great points. And I think, also it's so important, as you said, that just kind of building those relationships and seeing how athletic administration works on a peer-to-peer level that you might not see as a student athlete.
Yeah. And it is cool too, because sometimes administration will, they'll need feedback from student athletes for something. And if they send out a mass email to all the student athletes on campus, nobody's going to answer all the time. So sometimes they'll use us through SAAC to get direct feedback, and it's just a more efficient channel of communication.
For sure. Now, just looking at your education a little more, what would you say is, one of your favorite classes you've been able to take at Assumption?
Um, I would probably say strategic leadership. Strategic leadership is kind of a class where it starts off with a lot of self-reflection on who you are, and then you develop into, where can I improve? What are my strengths? How do I build upon certain strengths? How do I let some of them continue on their own? It definitely opened my eyes to qualities in great leaders that I lack sometimes. So it shows you, like, this is what I have to work on. This is what I need to do to be better. Because, like being an officer in SAAC for the second straight year, I've had a lot of opportunities to, be a voice for my peers and kind of help communicate their needs and wants. So I think that focusing on the areas where you need to improve in this class definitely helped me as far as real world application right away.
Nice. Now, just some more fun questions here. A little less off the education and the student athlete advisory committee. But what's one word your teammates would use to describe you? If I asked them.
Probably talkative.
I
Very
can
talkative on the team. So
I can see that.
yeah.
What's the best sports moment you've had at Assumption?
It's a good question. We've had some great moments so far. We made the regional my sophomore year, which was a great experience. I would say my favorite memory, we packed the Hagen Center at campus on a Sunday night for the NCAA selection show. So being there with my teammates, we thought our season was over. We didn't know if we were going to get in. Seeing our name come across that board and everyone going crazy, it was cool.
Nice. What about best sports moment before Assumption for you?
Best sports moment before Assumption would probably be my junior year of high school. We went to the Super Bowl, which
awesome.
We lost, but it was being in that environment was pretty unforgettable.
Nice. What's your favorite sport other than baseball?
Football.
Football.
Yeah, I love football.
What are the best 3 shows you've watched in COVID time?
Honestly, I don't know that I've watched 3 shows. I'm a big reader. I read a lot of books during quarantine. I watched a little bit of Designated Survivor. Designated Survivor was very good. Meat Eater on Netflix. I love that show. And honestly, I've probably watched The Irishman like 4 times.
Nice. What's your favorite place to eat? If you're like, I can have a meal, I'm going wherever. Where are you going?
Either Steve's Pizza in West Boylston or the 111 Chop House in Worcester.
Okay. And what are you having at those places? If you're going there, what are you having?
At Steve's, steak and cheese. They have the best in Massachusetts. No one's going to tell me any different. Or the 111 Chop House, filet mignon and stuffed shrimp. So pretty opposite ends of the spectrum there, but those are the 2 best meals for me.
Nice. That's all I have for questions, Brendan. I want to thank you for taking the time to join us today and talk with us about SAAC and why you're involved, and then also just getting know a little more about you. So I appreciate you coming on and chatting with me.
Yeah, thank you. Really appreciate it.